Please enjoy this excerpt of A Hazy Shade of Faith, written by Broux, published by Ex Libris Corporation, narrated by Naomi Pete. Chapter 1, March 25th, 2005. The young lady was sitting on the hood of the car when Kenny Garrison drove his truck into the parking area of the lakes at LSU. She sat barefoot, with her knees pulled to her chin, staring into the water. It was when Kenny began to stretch for his daily 4-mile run that he noticed how gorgeous her legs were. I know how this sounds, but I rarely look at black chicks. Not because I'm racist, but because I'm married. Well, anyway, she had on these cut-off jean shorts. And my God, her legs were so fine, man. The young lady asked him for the time. 2:30, he replied. And then, flirting, he asked, "You got stood up?" She smiled and said, "No, my cell is in the car and I really don't want to move from my spot. I'm in love with this moment and I don't want to lose it." Seeing another window to flirt, Kenny said, "Or you could just be lazy." She laughed and Kenny took notice of her dimples. "Wow, this chick is beautiful," he said within the halls of his thoughts. The two strangers would chat about nothing for a minute or so, and she wished Kenny a great jog. Kenny took off with the music from his iPod blaring in his ear, and the vision of her legs etched in his mind. 2 hours later, he arrived back at his starting point. The car she sat on was still there, but the beauty was nowhere in sight. Kenny reached into the cooler he kept in the back of his truck and grabbed a bottle of Gatorade he had buried in ice. He saw that she was sitting in the driver's seat of the car. He tapped on the window to steal one more peek at those legs. He bent over, and that's when he saw the beautiful black chick, slumped over to her left, with blood leaking from the hole in her temple. A nickel-plated .32 revolver rested in her dead palm. The driver's side window was shattered from the force of her head banging into it. Kenny Garrison screamed and called 911 from his cell phone. March 25th, 2005, was the last time he would ever jog again. Chapter 2. Every time I went to Park Grove Cemetery, where my twin sister Victoria was buried, it rained. Either a furious storm or in lazy drizzles, it's never been a visit where the sky wasn't dark gray. Today was no different. The sky water tapped the roof of my Pontiac. I was sitting there, ignoring the symbolism of it all when my phone vibrated. I didn't like any of the ringtones that it came with, and I most certainly wasn't paying money to download music for it, so the vibration alerted me of incoming calls. When the caller ID told me it was my mother calling, my first instinct was to ignore the call, but I figured now would be a good time to get our bi-weekly conversation over with. With as much attitude as I could verbalize, I answered, "Hello, Mother." "Victor James Madison, Jr.," Evelyn Madison said, as if she was reading it. "It's bad enough that you didn't sit with us this morning, but how do you just leave the service without speaking?" I had an answer for the first part, which was, Pop was in the middle of his sermon, and what would it have looked like, me arriving late with the cameras rolling? I didn't bother addressing the second part of her chastising, because she really didn't give a damn about it anyway. After a long pause and the sound of the cough drops as she ate like candy hitting her teeth, she said, That meant image-wise she knew I did the right thing. Bishop Victor James Madison Sr. didn't become the world-renowned head of Ultimate Light Interfaith Ministries with anything less than perfect imagery. My mother then moved on to new territory to bitch about. "You didn't make the photo shoot either, Victor. Cynthia, Mitchell, and the baby were there," she said, referring to my older sister, her husband, and their 1-year-old son. "Your father wanted the entire family there, and that includes you, Victor." My heart thumped so hard I had to catch my breath. I swallowed the urge to remind my mother that given the fact my twin sister is dead, there could never be a picture of the entire family. Changing the subject, I asked, "Where are y'all now?" I was familiar enough with the sounds in the background to know that they were on an airplane. "We're going to Indiana for a convention your father is speaking at, and then we have some business in Georgia." Since the expansion of his ministry, my father had been in demand. It had been weeks since I had spoken to him. "Remind him of the 27th, I heard a voice close to her say. My mother told me about the taping of the ministry's anniversary revival. "Mandatory," I heard the voice demand. "Yeah, tell Roland I know it's mandatory," I said, hipping my mother to the fact that I was aware my Uncle Roland was sitting awfully close to her, as usual. I figured my pops was napping, so I didn't bother to ask to speak to him. After a few obligatory motherly questions about my eating habits and work and prayer time, none I knew she really cared about, we said our goodbyes until another 2 weeks. The trail leading to Vicky's grave was rocky, and with the rain creating mud from the dirt, it was like mountain climbing. She was buried towards the back of the site, along the tall, gated fence line. "If you change your mind about being dead, you can just jump the fence." I told her the same joke every visit. Victoria Denise Madison, October 27, 1974, through March 25, 2005. My sister's life was summed up engraved on the gray marble tablet. It had been 3 years, and the pain of losing my best friend was still fresh. Being created at the same time, entering the world, and living every single day together for 30 years forges a bond that only death can break. And when death does come, it's like having your air supply cut short and rationed because you still breathe, only not the same way you once did. I hadn't breathed the same since I received the phone call from the cops. The light drizzle was trying to become a shower, but I stood my ground, not caring about it. "Yep, this was definitely her kind of weather." The source of the voice tapped my shoulder and startled me. I turned to see a short white lady standing next to me under an umbrella. I swear she loved dark rainy days more than the sunny ones. The woman's eyes were fixed on the tombstone. I was certain she was at the wrong spot and thought that she would realize her mistake once she read the name. "How you been holding up, Vic?" she asked with concern. Before I could answer and ask who in the hell was she, the lady held the umbrella up enough to accommodate my height and sheltered me just as the rain began to pour heavily. "I still can't believe she is gone." Thankful for her kindness, but dying from curiosity, I asked, "Do I know you?" She reached out, offering me her free hand. "Jill," she said with a short smile. I shook her hand, trying to recollect the lady. Her brownish blonde hair that was pulled into a ponytail and the blotchy skin that was wrinkled in a few spots gave away that she wasn't someone we went to school with. I reached back to Vicky's funeral, where a few of the white guys and girls we went to high school with had attended. Maybe Jill was one of our old teachers. When efforts to recall Jill failed, I realized that my twin sister did have a life and that I didn't have to know everybody she knew. I felt silly all of a sudden. "I'm sorry, but do I know you?" She looked as if it was a dumb question and said, "I really don't think you do, Vic." "Okay, how do you know my name?" "You're her twin brother, for God's sake. That's a tad obvious," she said with a laugh. Jill was enjoying my struggles with her identity. I was about to tell her where and how deep to shove her sarcasm when she said, "I'm Jill Mackenzie. Vicky and I were friends." The wind swayed the rain diagonally, and I felt the legs of my pants become damp. Before I could dig deeper into the details, Jill said, "So how are the Madisons doing these days? Still selling the good news of Jesus Christ for a healthy profit?" The anger in her voice made me take a half a step back. Jill was still staring at the tombstone, but her facial expression was as hard as the tomb itself. "Hey, what's your beef with my folks?" I asked, half offended, half in agreement. Jill looked at me, then back to Vicky's grave as if she was standing there. "Same as yours, Vic," she said as she pulled the umbrella away, exposing me to the rain. She about-faced and began to walk down the rocky path back towards the parking area. "Wait a minute." "Better get out of this rain, Vic. Nice meeting you." I didn't move. The thunder cracked as I stood a few feet away from where my sister lay. This has been A Hazy Shade of Faith by J. Broux. Please visit www.ahazyshadeoffaith.com to purchase your copy of the book. You may also visit Amazon.com or ask for it at bookstores nationwide. Promotional video produced by Emoian Press. Narration by Naomi Pete. Thank you.